Midterm election day 2018, and we are live with Larry Nichols. Larry, how are you today?
Hey, buddy, I'm here.
Sounding good.
You've seen how I am.
I have seen how you are. Should we tell people what's going on there, Larry?
Well, you can, yes, it's fine.
Well, so Larry is
Nothing. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, I'm just going to say it's nothing, crazy. I just fell, and I busted myself up pretty good.
Yeah, Larry's awaiting some cataract surgery, wearing some temporary glasses that don't have the bifocal prescription, and a simple fall obviously can result in some severe injuries. So Larry looks like he went 12 rounds with the champ, and we'll just use the stock photo for today. But Larry, we want to talk about the potential for Donald Trump to ride a red wave today. I've been looking around for some real-time results. I haven't really been able to see anything. I noticed that, oddly, CNN was expecting, I think they called it unpredictable results, which seemed like an interesting thing for them to say. What do you make of CNN calling for unpredictable results?
Well, first off, CNN, we might as well say, has a dog in this hunt now, as do most of the mainstream media. A quite famous pollster, who I'll tell you off the air because I'm not supposed to be giving his name out because it could cost him money in contracts, called me just this morning wanting to know what did I think, what was I feeling about today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me tell you guys, at this point, all we can do is say this is what we think. We have no way to have absolution. There's no way I can say this is for real, for sure, guaranteed. But what I see, Jason, is thanks to President Trump, I think the Republicans are not only going to stay off a blue wave as such, but I think we're looking at a significant red wave. Once again, I think the American people are going to show that we are not falling for this progressive overtaking of our country, of our form of government. I just don't think we are. And I think people are going to show the media one more time that the media better get on board. Because something's fixing to happen, buddy. Something's fixing to happen. Now, I could be all wrong. I could be totally wrong, and the Democrats could be mounting one hellacious turnaround. But I don't feel it, Jason. And as I told my friend this morning, he has learned to believe in what I feel just about as much as I do. I mean, it's just something you either know it or you don't.
Right. Yeah.
And I think we're in good standing thanks to President Trump. I think the American people are going to respond. They've never seen a president get out and do what President Trump has done.
Right.
Get out himself and hustle the people.
Yeah, I mean, he's been really, it's amazing, Larry. He's been doing a number of rallies. You know, in the graphic that I've prepared for today's show, President Trump is rather excitedly riding the red wave. So we're hopeful that will continue.
Keep talking for a second. I've got something busting in. Just keep talking.
Sure, no problem. So I'm definitely anxious to ask Larry.
Yeah, I'm on the phone. I have to call you back.
See, election day, Larry, you're in demand. So, Larry, the thing I like asking you about, the types of things I like asking you about, is how you would have strategized.
You know, I'll be back.
Oh, you still there?
Are you there?
You got me, Larry? Larry? Larry, can you hear me? You got me, Larry? Larry, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Larry?
I hear you very
Quietly? Let me turn it up. Can you hear me better? Larry, you got me? You should hear me. Can you hear me? I don't know what happened.
Lost you.
Maybe you got that other call. All right, I tell you what, Larry, just exit out and then click that link again, and you'll be right back in.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Damn.
Huh?
You got to just tap that link again, and you should be. I don't know why you can't hear me. Nothing should have changed on this end.
Let me try hooking up again.
Sure, disconnect and reconnect, and we'll be back on. Okay, there we go. We'll just get Larry back. Been using this alternative app because it usually results in better sound quality. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Sorry about that interlude.
No problem. No problem at all. So, Larry, I really enjoy asking you questions about what you would have been doing at this time in a scenario like this back in the day in the 80s when you were working with the Clintons. So, let's imagine that you're in Camp Clinton right now and they've got a Republican opponent in office. The midterms are coming up. What's the mood? What's the strategy? What would you guys be doing today?
What we'd be doing today, are you talking about being exactly where we are in the election cycle or ahead of where we are?
I mean, right now, today, during the election.
Right now, today, we would be screwed.
Screwed.
And I would be saying to the Clintons, well, you screwed up. Because I told y'all a couple of months ago, you need to dig stuff up and you need to destroy Trump. Now, I know you think you tried, but you didn't succeed. Trying don't work. I hate trying.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do it. You've got to destroy the man. And the chicken effort that you put together with this woman claiming that, putting all your eggs in the basket of this Kavanaugh was absolutely ridiculous. Especially now today, Jason, it's coming out all over the place that these key people that brought the stuff out against Kavanaugh, turns out they were all lying and have admitted it.
Yeah.
So they've got their own October surprise that they've done to themselves. But the Clintons, in this case, I would be forced to tell them, which they would not like to hear, you're screwed. Now, then they're going to come back to me and they're going to say, okay, withstanding all that, you griping and yelling at us. Now, what can we do to turn it around? Well, the problem is there's nothing you can do to turn it around. Nothing. It's too late. Too late, especially with early voting. Jason, with early voting, we have no idea. We have no idea what percentage of the vote has already been cast. We don't know. So you see, they're in trouble. Consequently, so too are the Democrats. They're in trouble. They've totally miscued playing this game, totally. And they would come to somebody like me or Dick Morris or somebody and they'd say, guys, fix it. And there are things that can be fixed, and then unfortunately there are things that cannot. But if I'd have been on the case, I'd have been on it probably 2-3 months earlier. I would not have chosen the Kavanaugh ordeal as a way to strike.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have done that.
I mean, it definitely seemed like a stupid strategy given the amount of exposure that Bill Clinton has historically with regard to sexual assault claims.
Right. I mean, think about that. Does that make sense? I mean, do you want to go against Kavanaugh, who might have had a group sex thing with the person that can't remember where it was, when it was, how it was, anything like that, when you're sitting there with a guy named Bill Clinton?
I just
as you're
find it
posting
hard
it
to
on.
believe. I mean, obviously anyone can, portray anything on television, but Kavanaugh seems to me, whether we agree with him politically or not, seems like a pious man, seems like he was studious in high school and college. I would be, frankly, quite surprised if he was guilty of the things he's been accused of, and particularly given the poor quality of the testimony from Blasey Ford, the individuals who have come forward now saying that they admitted they lied. That seems incredibly stupid. They're going to really have a lot of, I think, potentially legal exposure. And I mean, Larry, of course, it just brings back to the forefront of the news accusations from credible witnesses like Juanita Broderick, like Leslie Milwee. I mean, these are women who have given detailed descriptions, who have not wavered in the many, many years that they've been describing assaults by Bill Clinton. And hopefully the one good thing to come out of these accusations, these false accusations against Judge Kavanaugh, will be that perhaps women like Juanita Broderick will finally see justice.
Well, my thing with Kavanaugh is this. If we keep doing the same thing, I don't know who said it, but if we keep doing the same thing over and over and expect to get a different outcome, then we're crazy, right?
Right, yes.
All right. Kavanaugh, through his calendar, through his little notes and everything that he took back then, tells me that just about since birth, he has been being groomed for some position politically in the future. He was being groomed for it. So therefore, in my mind, Kavanaugh is just the same thing we've always gotten. I mean, there's nothing special about him. He's the same. But the Clintons cannot. I don't understand why Bill can't walk away. He got by with mistreating those women. He got by with it. Hey, he made it to president. He served 2 terms as president. He did it. He pulled it off. He was guilty. Everybody knew he was guilty. Why can't they lay it down? You keep bringing it up, and it's always going to stab you in the back. Which is good for me because I intend to use it on them. But it's just, they can't lay it down. The Democrats have a problem. They're really the ones hurting right now. They're sucking wind. They don't want any part of Hillary. They've had it with Hillary. They've had it with her arrogance. They've had it with her style of running for office, which is called a resume style, not a charisma style, resume style.
Right.
It hadn't worked. It's not going to work. She can't help but open her mouth and offend people. But you know what? They can't stop her. She's too powerful. Too powerful. She cuts like a knife, that woman in the glass ceiling trick.
Right. Well, I mean, Larry, it was just a couple days ago in front of a crowd that she was speaking about the possibility of a 2020 run, saying she'd like to be president. I mean, that's sort of like saying Bill Clinton likes sex, stating the obvious. But, I mean, I guess what you're saying is they just won't let sleeping dogs lie. Most people who have spent the past 30 years getting away with billions of dollars of financial crimes, multiple rapes, 0 prosecution, they'd kind of lay low in the autumn years of their lives and maybe, just kind of not stir the bucket, so to speak, but they just won't do that.
They will not do it. I mean, I guess they can't. Maybe that's the best thing to say. They can't. But I'll tell you this, Hillary has a problem. You know what it is. I have been forewarned that Hillary has put it out to most of the fixers in and around Washington, D.C. and elsewhere that she will not run for president in 2020 if I'm still around to harass her.
Really?
Really. And Now, that puts me in a bad way. See, once again, this is how they misread things, all right? Why would you say something like that to someone like me and basically challenge me? I mean, why would you do that? Why would you, and knowing that the persons that you told were going to come straight to me? Why would you do that? Knowing that you get my dander up, I'm coming at you. And you think the stuff they spread on Kavanaugh was bad, you got to watch out with me. I'll get you. I won't make a mistake.
Now, Larry, I just Googled.
There's plenty to not worry about.
Yeah. I just Googled Larry Nichols, Hillary Clinton, and it brought up this Washington Post article, but it's strange. It is WashingtonPost.com, but it looks quite different than the current Washington Post webpage, and it doesn't have the date on it. This is Energy Resolve Fight Fuel Clinton's Marriage, Surviving in Little Rock. I'm not sure when this article was from, but I guess this is talking about, you know, your involvement with them through the 80s and until they left Little Rock there. So talk to us a little bit, Larry, about, you know, you wouldn't be, I mean, in this situation on Election Day, you or people who you encourage wouldn't be doing anything at the polling places or anything like that to encourage last minute, somehow try to impact the vote?
You give me some scale to what we're talking about here. We talking?
I don't know.
What are you talking about there?
Well, I'm just curious. You know, I think most people.
What will I be doing to Hillary?
I mean, I'm just saying. I think most people in the United States at this point have lost a lot of confidence in the voting process. We've heard about rigged voting. The Hill reported 2 hours ago that in Tennessee, polling sites lost power and were forced to use paper ballots. To what extent were tricksters employed in the last minute? I mean, how did they lose power here? I mean, voting, it's usually happening in a school. Schools have kids there very frequently. They have auxiliary power. How do they happen to lose power in the middle of Election Day? I mean,
they have they lost power, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due to someone most people don't know about, Mary Ellen York. Mm-hmm. Mary Ellen, I met her a couple of years ago, and I was telling about elections being rigged.
Right.
Now, Jason, there's a difference between voter fraud and election fraud. Now, voter fraud's where you get hung up. Voter fraud's when somebody votes 5 times.
Right.
All right? Election fraud is the killer bee. Election fraud's when you go in and twiddle with the machines. That's when you make major changes in the outcome. And I told Mary Ellen that somebody needed to stay after these states. She said, well, what's the only way to stop it? The only way to stop it is to get them off of these voting machines. There's only one way to make it fair, and that's paper ballots. Paper ballots. Now, is it perfect? No, but it's more fair than a machine that's rigged. Thanks to her, a couple of 3 states this election cycle have gone to paper ballots. And by going to paper ballots, Jason, you have stripped the people that were able to gain control through rigging the voting machines. You've stripped them of their power. They've lost it now.
Yeah. See, that's always so confusing to me, Larry, because, I mean, on the one hand, it makes sense, but also, I mean, couldn't paper ballots be manipulated? I just voted this morning here in New York City, and they gave me this big sheet, this big paper ballot. You fill it in, and then you run it into a scanner in a computer, and it scans it. It gives you no receipt. You have no idea. That thing could be a paper shredder.
Let me tell you, when I was with the Clintons, here's how we ran paper ballots. You know, at the voting precinct, people would vote on paper ballots. They put it in a box.
Yep.
Lock the box. You know, you put a lock on it, it's official, it's locked. Then they give it to a state policeman. State policeman puts it in his trunk. drives straight from the voting place to the county seat where they're counted, and he takes the box out and hands it to the vote counters. Now, the trick was the box he takes out of his trunk to hand to the vote counters wasn't the.
Whoop. Oh, we lost you there, Larry. Let me see if we can get Larry back. That's interesting. Why did we lose Larry? Just try and call him back on the regular phone. Well, the thing I wanted to tell Larry about was these voting machines in New York City. They use paper ballots, but of course, you scan them into a computer. You scan them into just a regular, digital interface there. So that's not ideal. We really want some greater security on that. Let me see if I can get Larry here. Okay, so we got all kinds of things going on there. Sorry, everybody. Bear with me for just a second. I think Larry's... Okay, he's back. Larry, you back?
Back.
Sorry, we got disconnected.
I don't hear you very well. Do you hear me?
I hear you just fine. You can't hear me well?
Now, mine this time when it went off said your phone is hot. I don't know what that means.
All right. Let me call you back. His phone's overheating. I'll call you back on your regular number, okay?
You're going to call me back?
Just on the regular telephone. Well. Yeah. Hang up. I'll call you back.
All right, I'm hanging up.
Okay. See, every guest has different technical requirements. We definitely want to get the best possible sound quality that we can, but then I guess perhaps it's hot today in Arkansas and Larry's phone might be overheating. So let's just get him back on here real quick.
Hello.
Okay, we're back there, Larry.
Good Lord, I've never had this happen, so I don't know why my phone would be hot. But anyway, let me get back to it in case it shuts us off. So the state policeman would hand over a box to the vote counters, but it wouldn't be the box he picked up at the voting place.
Right.
Now, to back that up, you need to know the Arkansas Gazette at the time. There were two papers at the time, the Arkansas Gazette and the Arkansas Democrat. The Arkansas Gazette somehow got word that up in my attic I had a whole bunch of ballots. So they came to my house and went up in my attic. I let them go, and of course the whole attic was full of ballots.
Wow.
And they said, "Now, what are these doing here?" And I told them, "Well, I bought them for insulation." But that's what they were. So, yes, it can be rigged even through paper ballots, but you stand a better chance catching rigging that way than you do electronically, you see, through some electronic equipment.
Huh. I don't know, Larry. I mean, I'm a little bit of a technologist. I can't say that I'm I'm not a software developer. I'm not a security expert, but I just feel like, listen, any system created by man, any security system can be broken by somebody else, whether it's paper, electronic, or whatever. And Lyndon Johnson was famous for stuffing ballot boxes.
Well, let me assure you, there has never been, nor will there ever be, most probably, vote rigging like you'll see with the Clintons. I mean, it's just their organization is so massive that they can rig at that level. They can. Now, the way you beat them is like what I just told you. You got to have people like me that know what their tricks are before they do them.
Right.
And that's where they've got a problem with me. I know what they're going to do before they do it.
Well, so what happened
when... What bugs them is they still have to do it.
What happened when the Arkansas Gazette discovered these ballots in your attic?
They couldn't do a thing. They wrote a little story about it, and they were humiliated and mad. They
Who
couldn't
was
prove any
humiliated?
different.
The Gazette or the
paper.
Clintons?
No, not the Clintons, the paper. And then we got the reporter that did the story. We got him fired.
Wow. But he was reporting actual election tampering, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
That's amazing if
He
the Clintons
was.
were able to do that.
Yes. We did that all the time. You crossed us, you were gone. Look, there is no truth with the Clintons except reality, and reality is as one perceives it.
Right.
We specialized in that. That's what I'm telling you about Bill and Hillary. If she runs in 2020, she's got to get me out. Because if she doesn't get me out of the way, or what they call clearing the road, if they don't do that with me, then I'll muddy up every pathway they want to go. Because remember, the way they run a campaign is this. It's very simple. Y'all have now seen it for real. It's simple. You make your opponent, Jason, be whatever you need your opponent to be to lose. And you make yourself be whatever you need to be to win. Simple.
They're experts
Ain't
at
hard.
that.
Yes. Like Hillary, getting off that helicopter, wherever it was, and under fire, and come to find out it was a little girl taking her a rose or something.
Right. Bosnian sniper fire.
Yeah. I mean, this is how they work, and you got to have someone like me that's able to see through and plow through their facades, because their facades are quite impressive when you look at the people that they get to back up their stories.
Yeah. It is amazing the degree to which they have got people fooled. I was speaking to someone recently in California about Keith Ellison, who Laura Loomer has been very effective in exposing. I mean, this is a guy who's got two extremely credible witnesses who have come forward with police reports, photographic documentation of their injuries, women who had relationships with him who he physically abused, punched, bloodied, etc. And there's been no FBI investigation, as far as I'm aware, into the behavior of Keith Ellison. And this person I was speaking to was in fact a woman who hadn't heard anything about it. And when I shared this information with her, she didn't doubt the veracity of what I was saying. She simply said, well, I agree with Keith Ellison on policy, so she kind of let that pass. It's amazing, Larry. It's like a mass mind control or a mass hypnosis that the Clintons have over everyone, where they can commit these horrendous crimes and everybody still thinks they're great.
Well, and that's the problem. We've got basically a lazy electorate. That's why I think what Donald Trump has done has been so significant. He's gotten out there. Donald Trump, whether you like him or you don't, he has gotten out there and he has fought for the things he said he would fight for when he ran. He has. He's done that.
Yep.
And he has, through his personal efforts, shown the population of this nation stuff I've been trying to show them for 30 years, but I couldn't. He showed people what the media was actually a part of.
You're right. It's amazing. I think that, this is a good question for you, Larry. You've been in politics for many, many years. It definitely seems to me, just in a sort of casual observation, that the general public is way more engaged with politics since Donald Trump became the president than they have been traditionally. I mean, people are familiar with Jeff Sessions, directors in the FBI, people in the FBI, Rod Rosenstein. It just seems like people are a lot more dialed in right now than they have been in the past. Do you agree with that, or do you think I'm maybe just...
Well, yes, I absolutely agree with that for two reasons. Number one, Donald Trump has proven to many Americans, many, who heretofore have not been engaged in politics, he has proven that, hey, if you just elect a real businessman, not a politician, things can actually get done because they're getting done.
Right.
People never saw that before. All they've ever had was the scare tactic. That's all they've ever seen.
Right.
But the other thing that Trump has brought, which seems bad, but I guess it's not, he's a showman.
Right.
He's a showman. He's brought the entertainment value of the presidency up, Jason. He's done to the presidency what he did to his show You're Fired or whatever. I mean, he has brought the entertainment, and when you bring the entertainment, guess what? People come to watch because it's entertaining.
Right.
That's what he's done. To my way of thinking, now I'm no guru in politics, but I can assure you, he has been very effective as an entertainer, and he's been very effective in shoving it down everybody's throat that, somebody comes in there and has a reasonable head on their shoulders can get stuff done, and this junk that they've been telling us for all these years has been a lie. It's been a lie.
Well,
anyone could have fixed the economy.
One thing that's really interesting about Donald Trump, even before The Apprentice, when he was just a real estate developer, he was always in the news. He's definitely always been an element of pop culture. And his presidency, perhaps, is the moment where, pop culture and politics have kind of crossed or met. And it's happened in this moment where, social media is a phenomenon. Obviously, even, 4 or 5 years ago, there would have been no way for you and I to do this type of broadcast, to have thousands of people watching from something that originates from my apartment. You would need to get onto Fox News or certainly InfoWars or something like that in order to get this kind of message out. So we really are living in an unusual and interesting time. But again, we're exposing, and Trump's presidency is exposing a lot of these things. When he said something like the election is rigged or whatever, people on the left would have maybe felt that he was being hyperbolic or a conspiracy theorist. But as I said, when I went and voted this morning here in New York City, I filled out a paper ballot, I stuck it into this machine that's just a computer scanner. I have no idea where this thing is going, what that scanner is doing. I don't have any kind of receipt. I don't even know. This thing just sucks it in. It could vote for whoever it wants. The other thing I found crazy, Larry, is that here in New York State, the state Senate, there was only a Democratic candidate. How in New York State could we not have someone on the Republican side running in opposition to a state senatorial candidate?
I can tell you, you're not going to like it, but I can tell you that one.
Tell me.
Well, Trump gave California, New York, and Illinois the shaft. When he did the new tax law, you see, California, New York, as an example, those two states, y'all have had very high state taxing. Very high, right?
I know.
But the good news was you could write off your state tax off your federal tax. When Trump put in his new tax plan or his new budget or whatever, he fixed it to where now y'all can't take your state tax off your federal tax.
Wow.
So now you've got people by the truckload screaming to high heaven, hey, that cost me $10,000. That cost me $100,000. That cost me, it did. And because of that, Republicans are not thought very well of in the money circles there in New York State. And so it would be pretty dang hard for me or anybody else to help you or anybody else raise the kind of funding you need to run in New York. It would be tough.
Wow.
Because the money people have been hurt.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Larry, because I was thinking I should have run for New York State Senate, because people, I think most people go in there and they have no idea who this state senatorial candidate is. You see one name and then you see Jason Goodman, and just the name Goodman, I think people would say, hey, sounds like a good man, let's vote for him.
Yeah, this is the year. This is the election cycle and the one coming up, 2020. If this goes well for the Republicans, as I foresee it to do, 2020 will be another good year where people can get in, just like you, except without money. You don't have to have money.
But I realistically couldn't even get on the Republican ballot, right? Like if I wanted to run for senator.
Why?
I don't know. How is it done?
You can get on it. Well, you can get on it. You just got to pay your filing fee.
How much is that?
I don't know. I don't know in your state how much it is. Probably $1,800, something like that.
Don't you need the Republicans to support you? I mean, can anybody run?
No, they're not gonna. They're not gonna. Yeah, anybody can. You can run as a Republican.
Huh.
Well, look at what was his name, Judge Roy Moore.
Right.
He ran as a Republican for the Senate. They didn't like him. They didn't support him, but they couldn't stop him from running as a Republican. What you got to do is you got to stay off the ballot coming up in 2020 or whenever you do it. You got to stay off the ballot as an independent. You cannot win as an independent.
Right. But there's got to be some barrier to entry.
I advocate we need truck drivers. We need secretaries. We need waitresses. We need regular people in our government, Jason. People like you. You don't want me because I'm too corrupt. But there are good people out there. Good people. But we got to get regular people to run. And if regular people run, it's the fact that all of these regular people are running that becomes the news item.
Right.
That makes it work. That's what makes it work, Jason.
Yeah.
But you should, by all means, get on the ballot. Get on the ballot. It's too late, I'm sure, for this one.
Yeah. You get on the ballot by 4 o'clock and hopefully win the election. Yeah. I don't know if that would work out, but it's an interesting idea. And Larry, you've reminded me, the money issues that you spoke about in New York City. Obviously, we want to bring this information forward and do it out of the kindness of our own hearts, but everybody does need money to survive. So I want to remind people that they can visit Larry's website at nicholslive.com. Larry's got a lot of information on
But Jason, stop. Now, damn it, stop.
Yep.
We have got to have your program grow. We've got to have your program spread. We've got to be able to make people aware of your program. And folks, the only way to do that, Jason may not say it, but I will, is to stay clean. And how do you stay clean? Staying clean in broadcast means this, just like you heard me tell about the guy with the newspaper, right?
Yep.
That did the story about the things in the attic. Well, guess what? He crossed us, we got him fired. Same thing happens. Jason gets going, everybody, if he's backed by some big sponsor, everybody's happy, right? He's got all this money backed by his sponsor. But if he ever chooses to do a story that's truthful, but the big corporate sponsors don't like it, guess what? They cancel Jason. Or they give him the ultimatum. Either kill the story, or we're going to cancel you.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's what I like about that thing you're doing with, what is it, Patreon, or what? How do you say that? I never can.
It's patreon.com, and people can go to patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. I really appreciate you promoting that, Larry. It's important, of course, and you've hit it right on the head. I'm really trying to change the way that we're able to monetize these types of broadcasts. Rather than a large corporate sponsor, I'm trying to get a large number of individual small sponsors. And I mean, as little as $2 per month, it's less than someone would pay for a single newspaper, and they can watch shows all month. I've got different levels of sponsorship, and I think this is really the way that all news should be sponsored, so that there is no undue influence.
I think it's the way it's going to end up going. If there is ever going to be truth to media ever again, if there's ever going to be that, again, this is the way it's going to have to go. Because you see that if one party gets control of a network, well, then there goes truth.
Yeah.
Now, look, y'all, I'm not saying this because Jason has asked me to patronize him or pat him on the back, or we never talk about this. Never. But here's what I'm trying to tell you. If you want to hear from me, you got to come here. I spent 30 some odd years going all over the place to try to find y'all. Well, I'm done with that now. I think there are still things, Jason, I hope you would be the one that knows. I still think there are things I know that can be helpful to our audience.
Absolutely.
I think. But folks, I need your help. And no more than it costs to be a part of this program. Please don't pass it up. Because you pass it up, Jason will be forced at some point with one of two possibilities. One, go to corporate sponsorship. Or two, just get out.
That's the danger,
I don't think either. Yeah, neither one of those are very attractive when you start trying to hear the truth. Now, y'all better watch out. Hillary is coming in 2020. If she doesn't come in 2020, put it in the bank. Somebody will. Somebody will be coming. And Jason, the moral of the story that has been around in politics for years and years and years and years and years is we have been forced to vote for the lesser of two evils. You think you have a choice. You think, well, there's a Democrat and there's a Republican. No, there's not.
Right.
No, there's not. We're forced to vote for the lesser of two evils. And unless this program gets off the ground and keeps going and growing, we will continue to be that way. And we got to break the chain.
Now, Larry,
we got to break it. Donald Trump has done a great job of starting us off in the right direction.
Absolutely. Let's dig into that for a minute, that lesser of two evils, because I agree with you completely. It's a real charade, this whole two-party system. And of course, you were there in Arkansas, the Financial Development Association that was basically started to finance CIA companies. Can you tell us anything about Bill Clinton's interaction with, or did you personally have any interaction with George H.W. Bush?
No, I did not. And where that came from was Terry Reid. Terry Reid.
What do you mean?
Terry Reid wrote a book. I can't remember the name of it, but in this book, he alleged that he was a part of an operation where George W. Bush and Bill Clinton were interconnected in the drug business in MENA.
Right.
I never saw that.
Really?
Never did. And I would think, due to my relation with Bill and all the other people around him, like Roger and Laster, Hubble, dear God, you would think I'd seen it.
Yeah.
You would think it.
So this book was called Compromised, Clinton, Bush, and the CIA. You're
CIA,
saying...
yep, that's it.
So you don't think that book is valid?
I don't think so, but I'm not going to... He writes about me in it. I mean, I'm not going to knock it. If I can't prove that it's not right for me to say it's not right. I'm just telling you what I know, which is I didn't see it. The other thing is he was describing the fat lady, Barry Seal's plane that he went up in.
Right.
The problem with his description of the fat lady was he was describing the cabin arrangement of a C-130.
Right.
The fat lady was a C-123. And the cabin arrangement was different. And I was up in it a lot, so I mean, I could tell you that some of the stuff he was saying about Seal's plane was not true.
Now, wait a minute.
And
you're saying you were up in Barry Seal's plane a lot?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Really? Wow. So Barry Seal had a C-123. What's a totally different aircraft.
He would either fly out of New Orleans when we would leave out of there to go to Nicaragua or Honduras or wherever we were going. We'd fly out under the Flying Tigers. If we were flying out of Florida, we'd fly out under Southern Air.
What do you mean?
Same
Is the
plane.
call sign for the plane to the air traffic controllers?
Yeah, I mean, that's just who the plane was. The plane belonged to Southern Air. The plane belonged to the Flying Tigers. It was Barry Seals the whole time, but anyway, he just claimed it belonged
But
to
Larry,
him.
if you were flying with Barry Seal to Nicaragua, doesn't that lend tremendous credibility to this book that Terry Reid wrote? What was Barry Seal doing flying to all those places?
Look, I'm not justifying Barry Seal or not justifying him. The question you asked me was, did I think George W. Bush, Bill Clinton were involved in the drug operation?
Right.
My answer to that was, I don't think so. Now, the famous picture that you've probably all seen, or you can dial up on that damn computer you got there, Jason, of Barry Seal, offloading the drugs for the M16s.
Right.
Pull that picture up, and I'll tell you a little trick about that picture.
I'm looking for it right now. Barry Seal unloading drugs. Let me see. Do we see it here? I'm not sure that I can find it. I see Barry Seal shot in his car. That's easy to find.
Yeah.
I'll continue looking for it as you tell us.
Anyway, when you find it, all of you, as you look it up, you'll see these guys offloading the weapons from the plane and loading essentially cocaine on the plane. The problem, folks, is those uniforms are not Contra uniforms. They're Panamanian soldiers.
Wow.
That's in Panama.
Now, wait a minute. The thing that's interesting, Larry, is that since the creation of this Tom Cruise movie about Barry Seal, so many of the Google results for Barry Seal are now Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Curious how that works.
I was asked to watch that. I watched as much of it as I could. God bless Hollywood is all I can say. Some of that's not what I saw. But now again, I didn't see the drug operation. If I'd have seen it, I'd have blown the whistle on it. I would have. Adolfo knew I would. Anybody that knew me knew I would.
Well, and I mean, it stands to reason that Bill Clinton would have known that as well, and he would, compartmentalize any operations he would have you involved in. He would say, Larry is good for X, Y, and Z, but let's not get him involved in this MENA operation.
I guarantee you could ask him 10 times a day, and he'd have told you every time, don't even get near him with this stuff. Because I wouldn't. I wouldn't have anything to do with it. But it wasn't totally accidental. It certainly was not as comical with SEAL as that movie portrayed. That was a bad time. That was a bad time in my life. It was a bad time in our country's life. And it certainly was a bad time for the people of Nicaragua.
Yeah.
The kids, the women. It was just bad. It was very bad.
Well, and now we have this South American caravan heading towards the United States. I wonder how many people from Nicaragua still harbor negative feelings towards the United States.
You betcha. And I'll bet you $100 to a biscuit that if you break down those caravans, you're not going to find families, daddies, mamas with their little kids.
Right.
That ain't what you're going to find.
Yeah.
When you break it down, you're going to find MS-13. You're going to find coyotes. You're going to find every kind of trash that's been trying to get up here for a long time.
So
Trump's doing the right thing.
Yeah, you knew Barry Seal personally. I agree with you, by the way. We can't have thousands of people invading the border. And what would you say about Barry Seal on a personal level? Was he a nice guy? Was he friendly? Was he...
Well, he was he nice? If he liked you, he liked you. If he didn't like you, he wouldn't waste a breath on you. Fortunately, he liked me to some degree. He played often as though he were sort of aloof, affable, but he really wasn't. He was actually quite heavy into business. He, like the movie made it out, like he accidentally stumbled into all of this drug business. That's not true. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly who he was dealing with. And, but he was an okay guy if you could tolerate some of the wild stuff he would do.
How do you feel about Tom Cruise being cast to play him in the movie? That seems like very incongruent casting.
Well, not being a Tom Cruise aficionado and not knowing looks for whatever, Barry Seal was no Tom Cruise. He was overweight, and I wouldn't have picked Cruise to be it. It certainly didn't fit the character type. However, the character that they had created to be Barry Seal, I guess it fit. But the real Barry Seal, it did not fit.
Right. Yeah, it seemed like they were trying to turn him into some kind of a hero or something like that. It's interesting. As I'm scrolling through some images here, I see a Time magazine from, I would say many years ago, based on the age of Oliver North here on the cover. But on Time magazine, it's Oliver North tells his story, Reagan knew everything. It's interesting.
Well, Oliver North, when Poindexter and North got KO'd for Iran-Contra,
Yep.
that's when Reagan and Calero came to General Singlov and me. And they used General Jack Singlov, to raise the money inside the country here, which he did. And he replaced, what's his name? And then, good heavens, Poindexter. He replaced Poindexter.
Okay.
And then they wanted me to replace North and take over the forces on the ground.
Wasn't Oliver North like a general or something?
No, he wasn't a general. He was a colonel. But
Colonel.
there it didn't really matter. He was so anyway, when he got in trouble, they had to yank him from the field. And that's when they sought me out and asked me to help.
Huh. It's interesting. I mean, we should definitely do a show about, I mean, we've spoken about it, of course, but to the extent you're willing to go into details, the time you spent in Nicaragua and all of this stuff with Barry Seal and Mina Airport and this book by Terry Reid. There's a movie, of course, made about this as well. Is it Clinton Chronicles that has Terry Reid? It has you. It talks all about Mina. It has that White House correspondent who asked Bill Clinton, where he famously said, you know, they didn't tell him anything about it.
Yeah, that was Pat Matriciano. He came to me after the Star Magazine stuff had broken, and he said, I think there's more to your story than anybody knows, and he wanted to do a movie about it, or a video about it. I said, fine, I didn't care.
You know, Larry, it's interesting.
And that's where it all started.
Yeah. But this thing, I mean, you know, when you Google Barry Seal in 2018, you get far more images of Tom Cruise than you do Barry Seal. It's an interesting thing to notice how they can bury details of something they don't want people looking into by sort of painting over it with a prettier picture. You know, you see Tom Cruise on the screen, you have a certain image of Barry Seal. If they had some unknown, unappealing, obnoxious fat guy playing Barry Seal, which essentially is what he was, that might not be, the movie might not be so successful and everything.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, that's the problem with the internet, as I see it, my opinion. Once again, folks, my opinion, nothing I can prove in a court of law. But I worry about the internet because the internet is redefining history.
Right.
As you just pointed out, if somebody were to go through the internet trying to learn about Barry Seal and Nicaragua and what was going on there in history, that's not what they're going to see.
Yeah, they get the Tom Cruise version. It's interesting. It's interesting for sure. And I mean, of course, Oliver North had a great career after that. He went on to CNN. That's something that we shouldn't just gloss over. After admitting to involvement in a horrendous crime, essentially supporting a war against the will of the people of the United States, against the will of the Congress, Oliver North didn't go to jail. He went to CNN.
Well, now, is he on Fox now, or is he on CNN with his war stories?
I don't know where he is now, but I do remember, let's see Oliver North, what he's been up to.
I'm just wondering, that's really not relevant to anything. I'm just
Larry, I think you and I should plan a show in the future talking all about Oliver North and all these different guys that were involved in Iran-Contra, because so few people, even educated people today, are aware of Iran-Contra and what it was all about. And obviously, that's interesting to study because it's the same phenomenon. How are people able to see photographic evidence. I mean, take anybody, an actor or a person that somebody knows, if you showed them, you know, filed police complaints from women that were associated with that person, and in the photographs in the police reports, the women were all beat up, accusing some guy of doing the beating. What woman would support the guy who beat the woman? It makes no sense.
I agree. But then again, you'd be surprised, I would imagine, if you knew what all I was involved with.
Right. Well, we can get into that in a future show, of course. I always find our conversations fascinating.
I don't know that it's worth looking into in a future show. I'm just saying I've seen personally history that I lived, Jason, that I was there. And to see it rewritten and to see it distorted.
Right.
I mean, it hurts. I mean, it hurts to think about how people are being misled. I mean, the internet provides the progressive group the ability, just as I told you about with the Clintons, right? Make somebody be what they got to be to lose, and then you make yourself be what you got to be to win, right?
Yes.
The internet allows history to be treated that way.
Right.
So they can make history come out to where it's a fun thing, like that thing I saw with Cruz and that Made in America.
Right.
I mean, they can make it come out like it was just a comedy. Comedy, you know, just fun, just craziness. It wasn't.
Now, Larry, our comments here have corrected me. Oliver North was not on CNN. Oliver North was a correspondent for Fox News. He's 75 right now, so he's still alive, and he lives in San Antonio. Oh, he was born in San Antonio, Texas, but he was a Fox News correspondent. You know, a lot of the people that we have on Crowdsource the Truth are big fans of Fox News. I personally feel that any of these major news networks, major news programs that are, you know, run out of multi-million, multi-billion-dollar studios, they're all essentially the same. As Larry pointed out earlier in the show, they are relying on sponsorship from large corporations, millions of dollars at stake. They employ news personalities who are paid millions, and paying them those millions is a easy lever to control. You know, you take somebody like Tucker Carlson, who I actually enjoy Tucker Carlson's reporting, but for a little while he was delving into the use of helicopters in Las Vegas on October 1st, and very quickly that reporting stopped. I could imagine it's quite easy for some high-level executive at Fox to make a phone call to Tucker Carlson and say, hey, you like your multi-million-dollar salary? Drop the Vegas reporting, and that's the end of it. So it is very important for people who are watching us here on Crowdsource the Truth to sponsor their favorite independent news sources. I hope that will be Crowdsource the Truth, and people can go to patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. A $2 per month sponsorship is going to be less than you'd pay for a cup of coffee or a magazine or even a newspaper. And that's the value sponsorship that gets a good portion of your funds directly to Crowdsource the Truth. $1, unfortunately, results in a large amount of the money going towards credit card processing and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we know the banks control the world, so we've got to find efficient ways to stick together. And I hope that people will go to nicholslive.com and support Larry. He does need our financial support. He comes on the show, he shares his insights, his stories. I love getting the old Clinton stories from you, Larry. It's always good to go down the memory lane and hear about all that. People can send money to Larry through PayPal, through GoFundMe. He's at nicholslive.com, and his PayPal address is nicholslive@aol.com.
Yeah, now I don't have a GoFundMe. We shut the GoFundMe down, so it doesn't exist. Do not use GoFundMe.
Don't use GoFundMe.
But now, you know, one thing you need to know about the Clintons. I know some people are saying, well, what's that got to do with being relevant? Folks, she's coming. She's coming. Now, one thing about the Clintons, what they've always done, they will continue to do. So you need to know how they play, because that's what they're going to do when she gets back in.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think.
And I wonder how many people out there understand the difference between a resume candidate and a charisma candidate. Anybody know out there?
Well, Hillary
is
totally devoid of charisma.
Yeah. Well, Hillary believes, just like in getting a job at a law firm or whatever, prestigious job, that all you got to have is a stacked resume. So in her case, she was governor's wife, she was first lady, she was a United States senator, she was an ambassador. I mean, she takes all of those things she's been and she puts together a resume. A resume, to be quite honest, that anybody running for president, I doubt, would be able to compete with. That's her. And she thinks that is sufficient. She doesn't understand why she's got to talk to people. Why do I need to talk to these people? You already know she thinks so low of all of us.
Yeah.
We're the basket of deplorables. So she is a resume candidate. She lives off that resume. Now, you take somebody like Donald Trump, he's a charisma candidate. Bill Clinton was a charisma candidate. You didn't really ever spend that much time worrying about Bill Clinton's schooling and all the stuff like that, because that wasn't what made him important to you or Trump important to you. It was just their charisma. And to be honest, a charisma candidate has a much better time of it running than does a resume candidate. But Hillary's going to be a resume candidate.
And you're convinced, of course, that she'll be back for 2020.
She'll be back for 2020. If they're right and they can get rid of me.
Well, people in the
comments,
comments,
when they say
Larry,
get rid of me, that
yeah. Well, tell us, when they say get rid of you, what?
Well, does get rid of me, does that mean kill me? Does that mean what? I have no idea. I was simply told, she said she would not run unless they got rid of me.
Because people in the comments here are clamoring for you to take down the Clintons. They say that Larry has said he would take down the Clintons. Let's have it.
Well, thank you, Chris, one person, but there's no way to take them down until you have the opportunity to do it, and until she runs, there's nothing you can do.
Well, I think you're doing what you can do. I mean, obviously, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, they're among the most recognizable names and most famous people in the world. Larry Nichols, decidedly less famous, and certainly we've got this platform here on Crowdsource the Truth. It's not the same as Hillary Clinton, who can go on any and every news channel, news show. It's very unlikely that there's any mainstream news show that Hillary Clinton's people would call that would not, you know, clear their schedule and put her on at any time that she might want.
And don't forget, there's not a program out there you should all be able to see now, after Trump and all that's going on with Kavanaugh, etc. You should all be able to see now, there's not a news program out there that the Clintons can't have somebody call up and say, don't put him on. And I don't go on. I'm talking about put Larry Nichols on. Don't put Larry Nichols on.
Yes, of course, of course.
And of course, they wouldn't put me on for nothing then.
I don't think that the Clintons even need to get involved. Just the very fact that you're anti-Clinton would basically keep you off the news. But I enjoy having you, Larry, and I appreciate you coming on the program. I do want people to go visit your website at nicholslive.com. And of course, Larry, we'll be back at this time next week when we'll be able to discuss the outcome of today's election. Adam Schiff will undoubtedly be, you know, his head will explode or something, his eyes will pop out, and get so angry either way it goes. But next week, Larry, we'll get together. We'll talk about what we see happening based on the outcome of today's election. So thanks for joining me today.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to say this, folks. This is the time when I think prayer, believe it or not, is needed. Good Lord's up there. He's watching us. It's not going to hurt anybody to ask him for his help. We need it. Tonight, we need it. We need it always. I'm sure somebody will correct me and say, but we need help tonight.
Absolutely. Well,
Larry,
Larry,
you're
thanks.
a Jew, right?
I am.
The Jews worship God, or what do y'all worship?
We do. Jewish people worship God. I'm fairly, religion's not a big part of my life, so asking me questions about Judaism and religious history is going to be quickly...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put
that's
you...
okay. It's going to take me outside of my area of expertise, but we could talk about it in the future. But Larry, for now, let's wrap up today's call. I think everybody really enjoys hearing your insights, and definitely in the future we should get into some more stuff with Iran-Contra. People have suggested that I Google the real Barry Seal, and we can maybe dig in some more. Is Terry Reid still alive, Larry?
Yeah, was last time I heard, sure.
So perhaps
he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Are you in contact with him? Could we have him on the show? Maybe we could book a guest on one of your future shows.
I think you could have him. Yeah, we can have him as a guest. I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years, but I know where he's at, or where he was. I don't think he's moved.
Wow, that would be really interesting. All right, well, listen, Larry, thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of Election Day. Get out there and vote. We definitely need to help President Trump get that red wave going, and hopefully this time next week, Larry, will have a Republican House and Senate.
God, I hope so. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you,
Good luck,
Larry.
buddy.
And thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you later tonight for more Pain, 8 p.m. Eastern, only on Patreon. Thanks, everybody.